In this demo, I'm going to have a look at our exam preparation. Remember, it's a take-home exam for CNOS, Client Network Operating System. First place we're going to start, and you should have done this already, but I'm just doing a recap quickly. So I've opened up my module outline document, and in the module outline document, it says these are the topics that are covered for the exam tomorrow. Now I can see there's my textbook that I'm going to use as a primary source. Remember that you've got slides and you've got practice tests as well that you need to go through and familiarize yourself with the content. In other words, questions are based on the module outcomes and the objectives of the module. So you need to know in which chapter to look for the relevant answers. Now your exam is going to be for 2 hours. This counts 35%. You've completed the test assignment and your ICE activities. Let's see what does it say here. Read the instructions correctly. Remember to answer the question. Read, reread, underline the key words in the question, and then make sure that you answer the question correctly. Remember to reference correctly as well. So in Learning Unit 1, what are they talking about? Here it's all about the versions of Windows 10, enhanced features, etc. I'm not going to go through all of this. I'm just going to highlight the different modules that you need to have a look at. Module 1, Module 8 is covered in Learning Unit 1. Then Module 12 is the installation of Windows 10. Here we can see Module 2 is covering the system utilities. Module 5 is covering the managing of disks and file systems. Module 3 is on user management. Module 6 is on Windows security features. Module 4 is on networking. Module 7 is on user productivity tools. Module 8 is on Windows application support. Module 9 is on performance tuning and system recovery. And then finally, in Learning Unit 6, we've got Module 10 that covers enterprise computing for large environments, network environments. And Module 11 is covering remote access client support. So we've got an overview of what is going to be covered. So it's all the way till Module 12. 9, 8, 7, 4, 6, 3, 5, 2, 12, 1 and 8. So modules 1 to 12 is basically covered. Going back to look at my Learn. So Learn is my primary source of information, Learning Unit 1. I'll click on the Learning Unit, familiarize myself with the content, and I'll continue until I get to Module 6. So remember, all modules or all learning units are covered, learning units 1 to 6. So I would have gone through, for example, enterprise and remote client support. I would have had a look at these objectives, just read through the objectives so that you know if I get a question on branch cache, it is covered where? In Learning Unit 6. If I get a question on remote desktop connection or remote assistance, where is it? Learning Unit 6. So modules 10 and 11 is going to cover the required material. Enterprise computing, remote access, and client support. I'll click on the different links and then familiarize myself with the content again in preparation for the exam. Then I would also go to more resources. You've got lecture slides for all of the modules from 1 to 12. So I would have gone through all of these, just skimmed through it and read through it, and then make sure I understand what is covered within each of the different slides. Then let's see, for example, module 10 and 11. So this one was covering topics about Active Directory, group policy, enterprise management, configure enterprise file services for Windows 10, and describe Microsoft Cloud services. Remember, all of these topics are covered from the client perspective. That means a desktop computer, the operating system that's installed, and we've learned about Windows 10. And module 11, what is that covering? Okay, there's it here, managing enterprise clients. Troubleshoot and manage enterprise client, manage profiles using roaming users. Roaming users is I can go to any location and I can log in and I would get my documents, pictures. My profile basically is stored on the server. And that's the same setup that you have in the college. So you can go to any location and then you can get your documents or you can get access to your resources no matter which computer you log into. So that's a roaming profile that's associated with you as being a roaming user, meaning you don't just use one set desktop, you have multiple desktops in the college that you can use. Configure clients for virtual private networks, how to connect your Windows 10 computer to a VPN, and then describe and configure data synchronization for mobile clients. Data synchronization, we know, is ensuring that I have the same information on the server and on the local mobile device. For example, my email, I could download it to my phone, and the copy of the email that I have on the phone needs to be the same as that on the server. So that's synchronizing. Now, what else would I go to? I would have gone through the practice tests. So for each of these chapters, so for example, modules 10 and 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 and 11 is not here. I'll add this just now. Begin. Save and submit. Okay. Okay again. And then I'll just read through the questions and answers. Which of the following devices is most likely to benefit from this approach? A device that is likely to function in a kiosk mode. Kiosk is anyone can use that computer. So you read the questions because some of these same questions can be repeated in your exam. So if you've read it, then you know, yes, I've read this question before and there's the answer here. I can go back and have a look and then get an explanation for it as well, if required. Okay, so I'll quickly load those additional practice tests that you need to do. Then I wanted to have a look at the last year's exam paper. So I'll go into my intranet and I'm looking for past papers. I'm going to type in, this is CNOS. Let's just search. Maybe the code is wrong. So CNOS 5112. Okay. So I can see there's some exams here. CNOS 5112. And let's just have a look at which is the last year's exam paper, 65112 EA. Let's have a look at this one. This is 2017. This is an old one. Let's have a look at this one. 2022. Okay, that's last year's paper. So we want to have a look at the most recent paper to give us an idea, more realistic idea of what type of questions we can expect. So this was also a take-home assessment. So question 1 is 20 marks. It says answer the following questions based on learning unit 1, which is modules 1. They even tell you which is the modules again, so you know where to locate information. Read the scenario and answer the questions that follow. Your friend has requested you build him software development or programming PC as he's a professional programmer. The PC will be custom built from the ground up until completion. The games to be run require 64-bit architecture, and you intend to run Windows 10. What is the minimum hardware requirements for this gaming PC to run? That's given to you in that chapter. Okay, a minimum hardware requirements is meaning how much of RAM do I need? How much of processing power? Do I need a mouse, keyboard? Do I need disk space? How much of disk space? So those figures are given to us, which we have learned before. Now, a gaming PC would require more than the minimum requirements. So you would double the minimum requirements or triple or maybe 4 times the minimum requirements. But generally, it will be like 8, 16 gigs of RAM. The processor will be the latest processor, and then you can go on. What hardware would you recommend on this gaming PC in regard to the CPU, RAM, hard disk, and graphic card? Right? So now they're telling us about what is the type of CPU, and you'll give examples of this that you would and justify your hardware selection. So I would choose the Intel Pentium Core i7 processor with the latest generation, maybe 13th generation, and I'll specify the speed. RAM, I'll choose 16 gigs of RAM, and I'll say why I'm going to choose 16 gigs of RAM. I'm going to specify an SSD hard drive, etc. Which Windows 10 version would you recommend for the gaming PC, and what licensing method would be suitable? So version could be, is it going to be the home edition, the professional edition? Which edition is it going to be? And licensing method, is it going to be volume license? That's not appropriate because that's for large organizations. This will be a OEM license. No, that would have come with the manufacturers if the manufacturer had built the PC. Remember, you are building the PC up from scratch. So it will be a retail license. When installing the gaming PC, what are the installation methods supported in Windows 10, and which installation method is suitable for this installation? Installation methods was over the network, was automated installation, was you sitting in front of the computer. So I'm installing it via a USB, or I'm installing it from an image file. So what installation method would be used? So it's only one PC that I'm installing it, so it most likely is going to be from an ISO image file. Answer the following questions based on Learning Unit 2, which is on modules 2 and 5. Identify administrative tool depicted in the image below and describe the purpose of the event viewer and performance monitor, right? So is this the performance management tool? Is this the management tool? We need to have a look at what is the actual name of the tool. Remember, it was covered in Learning Unit 2 and 5. And then purpose of event viewer is to view what? Events that are system, that are application events. Performance monitor has got to do with what? How well is my processor performing, my hard disk performing, my RAM, the network? I would give examples and why would I use those tools. So what would give you this output? The tool, and then you would describe in detail event viewer and performance monitor. Now, when I say in detail, sufficient information to cover your 5 marks. So remember, not copying and pasting large amounts of information. It's about putting things into your own words and then referencing. You are preparing a Windows 10 machine for imaging and need to run sysprep utility using a command line. Detail the step-by-step commands that you would use to sysprep utility with the out-of-box experience or OOBE option for the command line. Now, sysprep is a tool that is used to remove all uniquely identifying information from a Windows 10 installation, which means the computer name, the unique ID associated with that installation, or any uniquely identifying information. For example, if you bought a new computer and you power it on, it'll ask you what is the computer's name, it'll ask you who is the user account that is logging in which region is this computer. It'll ask you for all of that setup information. So sysprep is used to prepare a system for imaging. When I want to duplicate a system, I need to remove all that personal identifying information so that the image can then be duplicated, and then I can use an answer file or can use an attended installation. So sysprep is located here. You'll describe the sysprep utility, right? And then the commands or step-by-step commands that you would use here. So this, it's covered in your material. You can just look at the commands there. Demarcazzo has bought a new 4 terabyte hard drive to add to her computer as a secondary storage device. However, when she configured the drive in disk management in Windows 10, only 2 terabytes of space can be accessed, and she has not partitioned a hard drive. What could be the cause of this, and how can Demarcazzo rectify the problem to access all 4 terabytes of storage space? Here, the BIOS needs to detect what is the capacity of the hardware that is connected. In this case, if I plugged in a hard disk drive, and if it's only detecting 2 terabytes, maybe it's a 32-bit system instead of a 64-bit system. So that's one of the possibilities that I need to consider. Is it a 32-bit installation or 64-bit installation? Another thing that I could consider here is what type of BIOS do I have? Is it a GUID BIOS or is it a GPT BIOS? And what are the limitations of the hard drives that are supported? So those are possible solutions here. Tabiso is trying to copy the Windows Server 2019 ISO file from his Windows 10 computer to a 16 gigabyte USB stick. However, he gets an error that the file is too large for the destination drive. After checking how much space is on the USB flash drive, he realizes that he has 12 gigs of free disk space, and the ISO file is only 6 gigs in size. So what is preventing Tabiso from copying the ISO file to the USB flash drive, and how can Tabiso get his Windows Server 2019 ISO file onto the flash drive? Here, if the flash drive is formatted using FAT, it will only support up to Is it 2 gigs? 2 gigs or 4 gigs? Okay, so here you would need to check, is the file system that's used to format the USB drive FAT or NTFS? So if it is FAT, it'll cause an error because the maximum file size is 2 gigs or 4 gigs. Just have a look at that. What is it? And then you would need to reformat that stick so that you get a large file that is being supported. Question 3. Answer the following questions based on Learning Unit 3, which covers modules 3 and 6. After completing a Windows 10 installation, you notice that the account created during the installation is available on the logon screen, yet you're expecting the administrator account. What is the name of this account? So this is the default user account that has been created. Okay. What is the primary differences between this user account and the default administrator account? This is a user account. It has limited access. It does not have administrative privileges. Then there's also things like, can you delete the default user account? Can you delete the administrator account? So those are some of the things that you would talk about in this question. So is it the primary or default user account? What is it called? Look at modules 3 and 6, and that will give you the names here. Malware can alter the way the operating system and applications behave in undesirable and disruptive way. Explain some of the actions that malware can take once inside a user's computer. So malware is any software that is causing problems with your operating system and applications. So it could be viruses, it could be worms, it could be Trojan horses, it could be all of these different types of software that causes problems with your operating system and applications. What are some of the actions that malware can take once inside of a user's computer? Malware can replicate itself. It can shut down your programs or your operating system. It can make it not bootable. It can delete into important files that you might have. So this is the kind of information that they're looking here, and you look for this where it is covered in your module. The password policy controls password characteristics for a local user account. Using suitable examples, explain the following password policy settings. So password policy settings, you've done this previously as well. Maximum password age is for how long I can use a password, and you'll give an example. So I can use this for 30 days. Enforced password history means I cannot go back and change my password to what I've used before. So it prevents me from reusing the same password. Passwords must meet complexity requirements. This means it must be uppercase, it must include uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and special characters. You're worried about sensitive data being exposed in the event of a computer theft. In the event of computer theft, explain how BitLocker drive encryption can help protect your volume data if a TPM chip is available on the motherboard, whilst explaining a TPM chip. Now, TPM chip makes it identified trusted platform module. So it basically allows me to say that this uniquely identifies this particular computer. In other words, BitLocker drive encryption is meant to do what? It's meant to lock a hard drive so that if I take out a hard drive from a computer and put it into another computer, let's say the computer was stolen and someone took out the hard drive and they plug it into another computer. Because of the trusted platform module that was used to encode or to lock that hard drive, it will only be unlocked by the same computer that contains the same TPM module. So it prevents data loss or theft in the sense that I take out the hard drive, whatever information was on that hard drive cannot be opened by another computer because I've been I've used TPM chip to encode or to lock that drive using BitLocker. Question 4. Answer the following questions based on Learning Unit 4 from Modules 4 and Module 7. 4.1, explain in detail how a computer technician will go about statistically setting up the IP version 4 address to 192.168.10.25 in Windows 10 with its default subnet mask and router and DNS address of 192.10.2. So in this question, you'll say step by step. So you would right click on the network on the networking icon. You select Network Sharing Center. You would then click on the Ethernet connection. You would open up the properties of the Ethernet connection. You would go into the you would say set IP address manually, and then you'll type in these numbers for each of the settings. You'll say okay, 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 and confirm. So you would explain in detail, those are the steps that I took to go and set the IP address. Given the following IP address, 2A, B, C, D, rewrite it in the shortest possible form. So here, for example, there's examples in the textbook here that shows you how to interpret IP addresses and how to summarize these IP addresses. For example, leading zeros like this can be compressed. So is it the first set that's going to be compressed, the second set that's going to be compressed? Can it be compressed once or twice? Can I take out these leading zeros here? Can I take out these leading zeros? Right? So there's rules that you need to follow in order for you to compress this, and that's covered in modules 4 and 6, 7. Jabulani is constantly losing his thumb drives with sensitive data when moving around from location to location. Recommend to Jabulani by explaining OneDrive, stating 3 benefits of using OneDrive. You should all be familiar with using OneDrive. We are using it at the college, so it's a cloud-based location where I don't need to use USB. From any computer that has an internet connection, I can log on to the cloud, access my OneDrive, and then access my files from that OneDrive account. 4.4, consider the following image and answer the questions that follows. Here I can see it looks like an Ethernet network, and I've got clients, and I've got printers, and I've got a server. Identify 3 printing scenarios in the graphic above. Printing scenarios in the graphic above. So the printers could be network attached. So here, for example, this printer is attached to a network. So this is could be a network printer and available, it's attached to a print server, all right? This one here you can see is plugged directly into the network. So that's a network attached printer. This printer is attached to the print server, and this is attached to a local desktop. Okay, so those are the 3 different ways in which the printers are attached to the network. Which printing scenario would be best suited for student printing in the Rosebank College Information Center? Example, the library. Okay, so it would be between either the network attached printer here, or it will be the server. So in the library, for example, I can justify any one of these 2 items here. It could be the network attached, or it could be the one that's attached to the server. But generally in the information center, in the library, I probably won't have the server that's attached, so I'll have a network attached printer here. So justify why you would choose either one of those. Question 5, answer the following questions based on Learning Unit 5, which is on 8 and 9, modules 8 and 9. First one, the Windows Registry is a central store for application and operating system configuration information and is divided into 5 individual sections called hives. List the 5 hives of the Windows Registry. This is straightforward: age, key, current users, age, key, current config, etc. So there's 5 of them. That's straight theory question. Consider the following resource monitor output and answer the questions that follow. The resource monitor output and answer the questions that follow. So resource monitor is monitoring here. You can see it's monitoring my CPU, memory, disk, and network. And then there's some information here about CPU, disk, network, and memory. And then on the right-hand side, I can see some activity here. So here, for example, they're talking, I can see that the CPU has got lots of activity, and it seems to be operating at 100% here. Identify what is causing the performance bottleneck. Performance bottleneck means which of these components here is causing the system to slow down. Is it the memory that's causing the computer to be slow, the network, the disk, or the CPU? Here it looks like the CPU. There's a lot of CPU activity here. So this could be causing the bottleneck. If this is a constant view of resource monitor, what can be recommended to resolve the bottleneck? Provide an explanation for your recommendations. Here, for example, I would need to upgrade the CPU so that I get a faster CPU that can process more instructions. And that is going to be able to then, so you'll need to say what is causing the bottleneck, probably the processor, and then what is your recommendation to resolve the processor error or problem. After recently upgrading device drivers and installing software updates on Nomfundo's home computer, and restarting the computer, never makes it to the logon screen. What did I do? I upgraded the device drivers and installed software upgrades. After I did this, the computer does not want to start again. So device drivers can cause problems with the operating system. Software updates can also cause problems with the operating system, making it not bootable. Explain what Nomfundo must try to get a computer fully operational without losing your data to completely having to reinstall. So in this situation, you would use the advanced startup options. Advanced startup options allows you to load limited number of drivers. It also allows you to roll back device drivers to a time that the computer was working. If it is software updates, then I can go to a system restore point. So it could be device driver rollback, or I could look for a system restore point so that I can go back to a time. See, the operating system can take snapshots of itself called system restore points. And then when I perform updates, I can then go back to a previous point in the system where I didn't have those updates installed. That's causing the problem. So it's going to be a system restore, or it's going to be rolling back device drivers. And you can explain both those options, but you must also say that you'll press, for example, F8 to get into the advanced startup options. Which one would you select? And then how would you go back to a system restore point? Question 6, is that the last question? Question 6, answer the questions based on Learning Unit 6. When configuring a VPN connection, what is required to complete the setup? You need to know the name of the VPN connection. You need to know what are the configuration options, and this is covered in module 10 and 11. So in other words, when you are connecting to a VPN from a client, the client will ask you what is the name of the VPN. It will ask you other information about the VPN, and there's 4 types of information that it's going to ask you here. Differentiate between remote desktop and remote assistance, giving suitable examples of when you would use either. Differentiate between remote desktop and remote assistance. Remote desktop is when I'm logging in from a remote location. In other words, I'm outside of the company and I'm logging into a computer in the company, and I can see the computer screen. So that would be a remote desktop. Remote assistance is when I'm asking someone else that's not in front of me, that's not by me, to take control of my computer so that they can show me how to do certain things, or maybe it's a support person that can see what exactly is the problem or error that I'm receiving on my computer. So that's the two options there, but you'll give more and you'll give an example of each one. Explain step by step the installation steps when installing Windows Active Directory for a domain called afribank.co.za. Installation steps of installing Windows Active Directory for a domain called afribank.co.za. Now, this is obviously going to be done on the server. Assume that the server 2019 has been set IP and version 6 correctly. You need only focus on the steps of installing Active Directory, as all pre-config of installing the operating system and setting up the IP addresses has been completed. So this we have done in the module on network administration, domain administration. So the steps of installing a Windows Active Directory would be to go to Server Manager, open up, add, remove roles, select Windows Active Directory roles, Active Directory domain services, ADDS, and then follow the steps. So you'll list all of the steps. They're giving us 10 marks for this. So they want in detail all of the different steps, what is going to be happened. And then when it asks you, when you're installing Active Directory, it's going to ask you, what is the name of the domain? You need to type in the name, afribank.co.za, etc. So that will be part of the steps. So this is how you would quickly go through and review. So for example, on this question on VPN connection, I know, for example, this was covered in where? Modules 10 and 11. So I've got the slides for 10 and 11. Module 10 was enterprise, roaming profiles, virtual private network, configuring clients. So it's the third topic here. What is this module? Module 11, right? So it's covered in module 11. So then I'm going to go ahead and there's remote desktops and remote desktop connections, etc. Right? So I'm going to look at all of these different options: remote assistance, quick assist, MMC, registry editor, roaming profiles, mapping drive letters, folder redirection, credential roaming, user experience, using a VPN, right? So configuring VPN clients now. So this tells me what a VPN is used to do. So configuring clients. This gives me a graphic representation, VPN protocols. Creating a connection. There you go. There's it here. Windows 10 users can create a VPN connection from settings. You can also create a new connection from a network sharing center. You need the following information. There's the information that's given to us here. VPN provider, connection name, server that you're connecting to or the address of the server, the VPN type, okay? The type of sign-in info. So that immediately I can see there's my answer for this question here. That says when configuring a VPN connection, what information is required to complete the setup? Any 4 out of that 5 that was given to me there is the correct answer for this here, right? And then I'll reference it as module 11, chapter, or module 11 from my prescribed textbook. So that's a very brief overview and a quick review of how to answer the questions in preparation for your exam tomorrow. Good luck for your exam. And if you follow these guidelines, then you should be adequately prepared. Remember also here, this was covered in modules 4 and 7, like IP addresses. So I can go back and look at modules 4 and 7, and then it will tell me how to shorten that IP address. There are certain rules that I need to use.